Yes, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. I'm your host, Nick Deus. At Nick Deus10 is where you can find me. VeteransMinimum.com to find all things VM. Before we get started, big ups to the members of the Patreon. Patreon roll call, we got Nick Chavez, Ben Kotzian, Christopher Velasquez, Derek Platees, Devin Rendon, Jordan Riley, Mike Wozniak, Nick Crummich, and Thomas Robinson. Thank you all for your contributions to the Patreon. We're at 60 Patreon members. Shout out to all of you legends who are helping us build the show out. And we got some really cool stuff down the pipeline. Joining me now is my guy, fresh off another hot streak in college basketball, Mr. NCAA. Kenny, what up? Like that one? Yeah, you like that one.
I do. I like that one, Mr. NCAA. And I have to put that in my Instagram bio.
Dude, I hate betting on college sports so much, but now I have you in my life. I got Jeremiah back there also. He's like, dude, there's a lot of money to be made, man. You got to do it. You got to do it. So I'm sure I'll be compromising my morals and degenning very soon.
Yeah, college sports are fun, man. They're like, Jeremiah is not wrong. There's a lot of money to be made, especially with college basketball, because there's so many, even football too. There's just so many schools, right? Like, you can find more, discrepancies in lines and just inefficiencies in some of the things that the odds makers are putting out there. But yeah, college basketball is fun. But like you said, there are those times where, something stupid will happen. And then you're asking yourself like, dude, why the fuck am I betting on these kids? But it's a good time. And if you know what you're doing and what to look for, you're right. You can make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the problem that I run into, dude. I feel weird betting on people younger than me that are not professional athletes that are going to end up working at like a, accounting job or being a professor somewhere. It just feels awkward for me, bro. I can't do it because then I get pissed off. And also, I'm not a fan of college sports. Like, I think the product is really bad. But it could be someone pressed me on this and they brought up a good point on Twitter. They were like, dude, it's because you didn't go to like my experience would be different if I went to Michigan or Ohio State, Alabama. I'm sure I would have a different perspective because one of my good friends, boss, he used to be on VM way back in the day. He's a Syracuse alum. So for him, college basketball especially, he's like, dude, this is where it's at. It's better than the NBA. He's one of those guys. So I do think like adding context to that and the experience could play a role.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for him, every time he probably a little flashback for him back to the glory days at Syracuse. But I mean, you're talking about the product. I think the product is significantly better than what the NBA is putting out, right? I mean, do you watch college basketball at all, or just nothing?
I don't watch college basketball at all. However, I'll say the opening weekend of the tournament is one of my favorite sporting events year in, year out, which makes no sense because I watch it, I enjoy it, and I don't even bet on it too, which sounds so wrong for me to say as someone who's not a fan. Like, I can watch soccer games, I can watch NBA games and have no money on it. There've been a lot of football games I watch where I have no side, no total, nothing in that game, and I can enjoy it. But with college basketball, it's so weird. I won't watch any college basketball until the tournament, and I won't even bet on it. But I'm fascinated by that entire day of games where they start at noon in the East Coast and then they go all the way till midnight with some of the late starts out west. And I like seeing, it's very similar to me, and hear me out when I explain this. It's very similar to major international soccer tournaments a lot of times with the NCAA tournament because you get a lot of people that tune in to the World Cup and the Euro Cup, and there's a lot of like national pride behind it. And you see that often with the NCAA tournament with the alumni and people that graduated from all these schools that just blindly back their school, which is super dope. And in New York City, I'm sure you know this too, living out there, how many bars in Manhattan are UConn alumni bars, Oregon State bars. And it's like all the alumni that live in the city end up going there, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole tournament is electric. But yeah, day one, the first few days, first round of March Madness is electric. And yeah, it definitely draws in more casual fans than a lot of other sports. Probably because of the bracket, right? Like the March Madness bracket is something where it goes around offices and the Karen from accounting who knows nothing about basketball, but she's getting involved, and then you got the guy who thinks he knows everything. He's getting involved, so it's a fun bracket, and I think it plays into just like kids getting into it. Like I said, casual fans getting into it, so it just draws and it has a bigger draw to many more people, right?
Yeah, without question, dude. And there's a lot of money that gets wagered on that too. I was looking at, so I got a buddy of mine that's coming next weekend to visit Vegas for my buddy Boss, who I was telling you about before. He's coming in and we're going to the UFC fight, John Jones, Cyril Gane. We bought tickets to go
Where's
there.
my invite?
Dude, you know what's crazy, man? I didn't even think about like mentioning it to you. That would have been perfect to have you come out here. You see, it really be your own, bro. It'd be
Stop
your
the
own.
show. Yeah, stop the show, man.
So,
Stop the show.
he's pulling up, and I was looking at prices for like hotel rooms for that weekend, and then it's in March, so I was just looking, and it is expensive, bro, for that opening weekend. You're talking about like $800-900 a night for that opening weekend amongst several different hotels.
Yeah, doesn't that suck, right? Like I remember being, when I would go down to like the clubs, because now I live a lot closer to Atlantic City since this is where I do betting and stuff. But Atlantic City used to be like a 2-hour drive for me. And I just remember like coming down on the weekends with my friends, and the rooms would be $500-600. We'd have to like pool our money together, split the rooms and shit. But yeah, it sucks when things start getting that outrageous, right? Like, because there's a big event going on. I guess they just hike up all the room prices. But you know what you should do? You should just tell your buddy to fucking figure out the cost of what the weekend's going to cost them, put it on John Jones, and boom, you got a free weekend.
I mean, yeah, he's also he's staying at my place also for it because it's easy. But yeah, I mean, John Jones is the play. I took it at -125. I'm an idiot that I didn't bet it right away, but I had so many other things going on. He opened up as an underdog, and now my bold prediction is now it's at -150 in some places out here. I think come fight day it'll be north of -200.
Yeah, I was trying to think about like where that line was going to end, because I I hate myself for not jumping in when it was plus money, right? Like John Jones should never be plus money. I don't care if he's fighting Jesus Christ himself. John Jones should never be plus money against anyone, especially Cyril Gane, who we saw what happened when he fought Francis, right? Like he was just overwhelmed, and I think it's going to be a very similar type of fight where he's just overwhelmed. I saw he came out, he did an interview the other day talking about how he doesn't start training for these fights until like the fight's locked in. Like John Jones has been training for this fight for years. Like maybe not against Cyril Gane, but he's been waiting to go to the heavyweight division for years, and he's a killer, man.
That's exactly it, dude. I love that John Jones took this long to fight a heavyweight, because one of the issues that I have, Kenny, with a lot of UFC fighters is when they jump up to a weight class and they put on a ton of size with no indication or desire to then stay in that division. Like I love what Adesanya did, and obviously it didn't work out, but he went up to 205 and he didn't put on any weight. He didn't cut that week. He weighed in at like 194, 195. He fights at 185, but it was just to go and challenge himself against Jan Blachowicz at the time, who was the 205 champ. He loses, but he immediately goes back down to 185, where he was the king of that division for many, many years. And I like that, like Volkanovski also, when he fought Islam Makhachev a couple of weeks ago, he just went up there, didn't cut any weight, didn't pack on any size, because he knows that 145 is going to be his division. When John Jones let go of the belt at 205, all signs pointed to him going up to heavyweight so he could challenge himself there. And it's been 3 years since we saw him, but I like that it's been very calculated. He's been very active in the gyms. It's not like he started training 8 months ago. He's been trying to get a fight booked since the tail end of 2021. It's just the UFC was in a weird place with the heavyweight division. Do you give it to Stipe again? Do you go with Francis? Cyril Gane is over there too. I can't wait for that fight, man. And we got a lot of fun stuff on VM coming next week. But it leads to my next question, dude. What do you do after?
I got a funny story about John Jones for you real quick. So my buddy, he was a writer for Forbes, right?
Mhm.
Interviewed Izzy a couple years ago. And this just shows you the mindset of the champion mindset John Jones has. My friend, who at the time, was a nobody, does this interview with Izzy, puts out an article. John Jones comments on the tweet or wherever he dropped the article and like retweeted the interview with Izzy of Izzy talking about John Jones. And it's just John Jones took the time to like dive into my friend's interview with Izzy. He's listening to what Izzy's saying, right? Like he's just a champion. And he like that just shows to me like he's such a dog, and he's one of my favorite athletes. You could talk about him like outside of the octagon, what type of person he is, but yeah, man, that's going to be a fun fight. And yeah, the line will probably close minus 200, so we should jump in now.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he is, in my opinion, he's the best fighter of all time because he's never lost, right? Like he has that one blemish, but he was cruising to like a 10-8 round before the illegal elbow. But his resume is crazy, and he's also the biggest what if in fight history, right? Like he's been this dominant of a champion and so great at what he does, and he's had the PED issues, the assault and battery, and all this stuff outside that has taken him away from the octagon, and he's still the best to ever do it. So I'm really excited for him to come back next week, man. And like I said, we do have a lot of cool stuff coming out for that pay-per-view and a lot of fun guests. But it also kind of segues into one of the questions that I had for you, because I get this a lot also. When football ends, a lot of people don't know what to do with betting, right? You don't have that thing every week. People start betting on hockey when they've never bet on hockey. It's like, dude, you're an idiot. You're going to be punting your money away. Don't do that. You have always bet NCAA basketball, so for you, it's a natural transition to go into it. But what advice would you give people that maybe started betting earlier this year and they bet on the NFL for the most part because it's the most popular, it's the one that everyone swears they know, right? Like how many conversations you have with people that they know football, but they can't bet on football. And for us, it makes sense. And for people that understand betting, understand the differences between the two. But for the casuals, they're like, oh, I could bet on football. I know it. It's like, nah, man, there's different angles and different things that you have to account for. So what advice would you give to someone that recently got introduced to sports betting and now football has ended?
Yeah, it's, kind of like what you're saying. I always say, like, the biggest sports fans are usually some of the worst sports bettors. How much you know about what happens on the field doesn't necessarily dictate to how good of a bettor you're going to be. But hey, if you're just someone who's new, just getting into, sports betting, and, you had a successful NFL season and you just want to continue the action and keep it going, I would say a couple things. One, don't over leverage yourself. So if you're new to college basketball betting or you're new to NBA betting, kind of like stocks, where some people, they always recommend you start out with kind of like a dummy account, right? With like no real actual money. Doesn't sound fun, but if you're trying to be serious and make sure you don't lose your money or, put yourself into a bad situation, that's one way you could really just, get acclimated to, the ebbs and the flows of college basketball betting, see different trends that you see kind of happening over and over and over again, right? Like, oh, an unranked team is a short home favorite versus the top 5 team in the country. Usually everyone would think, oh, let me take the top 5 team in the country there. But it's usually, not so fast, not really a good bet. So yeah, I just think just take your time, be disciplined. There's a lot of bets, like on a Saturday, there's hundreds and hundreds of bets you can make throughout the day. So just be disciplined, man. I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes people just get too excited. They want to go, balls to the wall right away before they kind of, get their feet wet. And then, a couple weeks later, they find themselves in a bad situation, owing someone some money, or, they can't pay their rent, whatever it may be.
Dude, I think the dumbest bettors and gamblers I know are the friends that I have that know the most about that sport that they're betting on. And they just have to bet, right? Like, I'll never forget, one of the coolest things that you had said that stuck with me was not something you said on the podcast. We might have reiterated that on the podcast, but in text, I had asked you what you like. I think it was after the afternoon slate of games. So like the 4:00 games in the East Coast, they had ended. So, you have that little hour between the 4 p.m. and then Sunday Night Football. And I was like, dude, what you got for tonight and tomorrow? You're like, nothing. I was like, what do you mean nothing? You're like, bro, if I don't really like something or feel like I have an edge, I'm not going to bet on it. And I was like, interesting. You're like, yeah, bro, if you want to do this for real, you can't be having 20 bets a night just because it's a Tuesday and you want some action. And I have so many of my friends that'll reach out to me and say, dude, what do you like tonight? What do you got tonight? I'm like, no, nothing. And they're blown away by that. They can't believe it. And I think what's cool about football ending for me, nothing really changes because I primarily bet on 3 sports a week. And then come playoff time in the NBA, I love betting playoff basketball. We talked about this in the past too. And what's cool about UFC betting and soccer betting, it has a NFL feel to it where it's weekly. So I have enough time throughout the week to gather who's playing, who's missing because of yellow cards. What's the word out of this training camp? Is someone hurt coming into it? Did they have a bad weight cut? So it's very similar where Major League Baseball, there's so much that goes into those games, and you have to consume all this in a couple of hours when you get the batting order and you get the starter that's pitching, and then it's every day you got to do this. So you have to be on Twitter. You have to be consuming all this content, and it's a lot. And even in the NBA too, which I think NBA regular season is the worst thing to bet on personally. So not much has changed for me or changes for me when football ends. It's kind of still status quo and going about my business with the sports that I bet on.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I guess kind of the same. Obviously, you said, I've been betting on college basketball for years. So up until the last couple of years, too, I would have said college basketball is probably my number 2 best sport for betting, handicapping. Recently, I think the NFL has surpassed it, but this year has been pretty crazy. I've been on some crazy runs in college basketball this year. It's been a good season so far, but I would say baseball is my best sport at handicapping. By far, MLB. I don't think there's many people that are touching me when it comes to baseball. And then usually NFL and college basketball are like right there, 1 or 2A, 2B for me. So nothing much really changes. If anything, I think it gets easier when there's, NFL and NBA and college basketball and all these different things on. Sometimes it's a little harder to find like the right spots for me. But like since NFL has ended, college basketball has been on fire.
With the NFL ending, immediately people start talking about next year and some of like the futures and Super Bowl odds. And it was funny. You and I had a fun little back and forth, and you were like, you're on your own on this one, brother. But I text you and I was like, are you ready for VM to become a pro Denver Broncos podcast? Why don't you like that one? Does it not intrigue you? Do the odds not, are you not interested by it? What's the vibe that you're getting out of Denver?
I don't think Russ is cooking much. I think Russ was extremely overrated in Seattle. I think he was kind of cushioned by having a very good defense in his early career, having Marshawn Lynch in his early career, having Pete Carroll, right? I don't think enough credit, and I fall victim to this sometimes too. Like, I don't think the coaches get enough credit in some of these sports at some of these higher levels. Like, look at Daniel Jones, what he did when Brian Dable became his head coach, and look at the downtrend that Josh Allen had, right? That's just one guy that was with one guy, and then he wasn't with him, and then he's with one guy that didn't have him the year before, and their numbers go in the opposite direction. Now, there's other variables that can be accounted for, better teammates, whatever it is, but I think the coach, especially with the quarterback, like the good connection, like we saw with Brady and McDaniels in New England for all those years, right? I think it has a big effect on it. And, Sean Payton, great coach. He's regarded as one of the best offensive minded coaches in the NFL, but you still got Patrick Mahomes in that division, who we all saw what he did this year to, the naysayers who kind of wrote them off, right? You have the Chargers, who I think the Chargers are going to take a big step up. It's one more year, Herbert in the NFL, getting acclimated to the speed of the game, the playbook. Another year of having those new acquisitions they got last year that they had all the hype coming into the season. They kind of, underperformed a little bit. And then they bring in a new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, for him, which isn't really being talked about a lot, but I think it's going to be a huge upgrade for Justin Herbert and helping his development going forward. So I would put the Broncos probably 3rd best team in the division. But if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Raiders or, someone like that, you could make the argument that the Broncos are the worst team in their division.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in there where if Russell Wilson is really fried and he's just not that guy anymore, this is a terrible take. But I'm banking on, they have a lot of talent on this team, bro. And I'm looking at the roster. there's no one that really matters that's a free agent. Like all their starters are expected to be back. They're gonna get Williams, the running back off the ACL. They have amazing wide receivers. You got Judy. I'm a big Hamler guy. They got Sutton. They'll get Tim Patrick back, who had gotten hurt last year. They can improve the offensive line, which I'm sure they will, and maybe this scheme with Sean Payton will probably improve that as well. But this is me betting on the defense. Sean Payton being able to revive Russ. He helped save Drew Brees' career. I mean, they ended up playing together for 12, 15 years, was it, that he was with New Orleans? This is a bet on Sean Payton and the defense and Payton being able to bring back the Russ that we all were saying was a top quarterback with Seattle. That's why I think
I never said that.
You never was on Russ? Really?
No, honestly, I've never been a big fan of Russell Wilson. Never. He's gritty. He's got a lot of heart, and he goes for it. He plays hard, but yeah, I don't like him as a quarterback in the NFL. You take away those early years for him. Again, what has he done after those early years of having the Legion of Boom, who's could be called one of the best defensive units in NFL history? Marshawn Lynch, who was a fucking wrecking ball on offense. So yeah, you take away those guys from him. What has he done since? The Seahawks were not a very good team.
I mean, dude, he won a bunch, kept them in the hunt.
Tom Brady won a bunch too with way less.
I mean, bro, we're talking about
and then you look at the Broncos team, right?
Okay.
You could debate it, but I don't think so. I think Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are a way better 1-2 than anyone on the Broncos.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think
so. He's got
I think the conversation, right? But collectively, I think they have better weapons.
Yeah, but look at what happened to them last year, right? The defense was stellar. They're holding teams to 16, 17 points a game, but the Broncos couldn't score 20, and it was. When I see things like the offensive players on the sideline screaming, not just being angry with Russell Wilson, but just full on screaming at the guy because he's so inept out there, that's telling me something. Not just oh, he's having a bad year. It's all right. Maybe this guy's not what we all thought he was.
Look, that's fair, man. But I think he was definitely a big reason for their success too. He never had a losing record in Seattle until that last year that he was there. Consistent, and towards the end of it, 2019, 2020, it wasn't the LOB anymore. All those guys had left. So I think this is a bet if you're going to take the Broncos, and they were the first future that stood out to me. Some places 30-1, other places 45-1. That's why we say don't just dive into the first sports book you see that offers odds. You have to shop around. It's like anything else that you go shopping for. And it was the first one that jumped out to me when they got him. I was like, all right, if this guy could revive Russ, I think there's something there. Now, you also brought up a lot of strong points too. You're talking to a Justin Herbert stan. Love Justin Herbert. I do think Kellen Moore, that's not being talked about enough. That's going to elevate them. Dude, Dallas had a top 5 offense the last 3 seasons that he was there. And I think that's a big mistake for Dallas letting him go because I think the issue is really McCarthy. He was not the issue, in my opinion. So that's going to improve the Chargers. And maybe a lot of people are going to be turned off by the Chargers this year because everybody was on the Chargers last year in that division. They were the favorite, not the favorite, but they were the one that was talked about the most with some of the additions that they made. So, look, we do have a long ways to go, but I do think I'm going to be monitoring the line on the Broncos as we move closer to football once again picking up.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it, man. We're all entitled to our opinions. And hey, you're the guy who you called the Super Bowl matchup last year. I didn't have the Chiefs Eagles, so we'll see what happens. That's why we play the game, right, baby?
Yeah, you ain't kidding, bro. You ain't kidding. Now, talking about some of these, we're talking about a quarterback in Russell Wilson. I think there's 3 quarterbacks who are being rumored either to leave or are they coming back, whatever it might be. But I think these 3 guys, depending on where they go, Kenny, can have a massive impact in the futures markets. And also, a team like the Saints, right? I think if I was Derek Carr, that's the team that I would go to because I know he visited the Jets over the weekend. In games in which the weather is under 45 degrees in his career, he's 3-13. It was always bet against Carr when the weather was shitty. He was not that kind of quarterback. You play in New Orleans. Hot take, bro. If he goes to the NFC, he's what, a top 5 quarterback in the conference? Where would you put him at? Just off the top of your head, if you had to guess.
Well, top 5 in what, the NFC? You're saying?
Yeah, in the NFC. Like, who are the 5? If Aaron Rodgers leaves, right? Like, all indications are he's not going to be in the NFC. He's not going to be with Green Bay. I think he goes to an AFC team. That's what I would bet on for Aaron Rodgers. Who are the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFC? And when you name them, you're going to have so much uncertainty in you naming these guys.
Yeah, because like I'll be honest, the first person, and this is probably just me not really thinking hard enough, but the first person who comes to mind is Jalen Hurts. Yeah. And I know Jalen Hurts definitely isn't the best quarterback in the NFC, right?
So for me, the 3 that came off the top of my head, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Bro. Right? Like so it's bad. And then I think you would have to Matthew Stafford. Like these are the conversations we're having. There's got to be
someone we're forgetting, man. There's got to be someone we're forgetting right now. There's got to be. Let me think real quick.
Dude, the NFC South, dumpster fire. I can't tell you who any of the quarterbacks are. Bad. I can't tell you who the starters are right now. I have no idea. In the entire division. In the East, you got Jalen Hurts, you got Dak, you got Daniel Jones, who you were talking before about Daniel Jones, and immediately in my head I was thinking the number's 4 or 5. He wants $45 million, and this is what happens.
Now, didn't you see? I think it was obviously, I'm assuming, a joke, but I didn't really do any research to see if it was real. They said you really wanted $4 to $5 million, but they couldn't hear over Dable's slurping the fettuccine.
Yeah. That was definitely a joke. That was hilarious, though. But so I just named you the East, right? And it's Sam Howell is now going to be the quarterback.
What about Goff?
Ooh, that's a good one. But it's also Goff, though.
Yeah, because like I know where you're going with that question. Obviously, like I was thinking, I was looking before, like why don't the Lions try and trade for Lamar Jackson? They have the Rams top pick. They can easily package probably that pick and Goff and maybe like another pick and get Lamar Jackson today with one of the best cores around him. Like, can you imagine Lamar Jackson with Amon-Ra St. Brown? He hasn't played with a wide receiver on that level his whole career.
I mean, dude, for sure. And what's crazy is coming into this year, I remember talking so highly about the Lions' weapons. They were on Hard Knocks. They got a lot of love. I didn't buy into that. I thought they would improve for sure, and they did. But people were betting on them to make the playoffs and the Super Bowl and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, let's slow down. Let's slow down a little bit. But the one thing that I was really putting a huge emphasis on is spent the first-round pick on a wide receiver. They have DeAndre Swift. They got Jamal Williams, who I've always been a fan of. At the time, they had Hawkinson, right? You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have a lot of guys where you're looking at the roster and you're like, yo, if I was a quarterback, I would – it's Detroit. I get that. But this is a fun place to play. It's a controlled environment. You don't need to worry about the weather. And you have a lot of weapons at your disposal. It'd be appealing for a guy to go there. I like what you're saying, but does Goff do it for you if you're Baltimore? Like you go into the season now with Jared Goff? That's why this question that I asked you is so wild to me, because I think if Derek Carr goes to the Saints, dude, he's probably a top 5 quarterback in the conference. And I think they're immediately the favorite to win the division. And they have a lot of weapons too. Like that would be the fit if I was Derek Carr that I would want to go to. I wouldn't want to go to the Jets. You're obviously not coming back to the Raiders. I think the Saints is like a home run for him to go there.
Yeah, I think the Saints seems like the most obvious fit for Derek Carr, right? You have Olave, you got Kamara, the coach, great defensive coach, the dome, so you don't have to worry about the cold weather. Like you alluded to, Derek Carr can't play in the cold weather. So, and definitely an upgrade from Andy Dalton. So, that's a win-win for both of those guys. I think the Saints makes the most sense for Derek Carr. And the Jets, like typical Jets fashion, which you being from New York, like you're going to know this, like all my friends who were Jets fans like 2 weeks ago putting on their Instagram stories, we're getting Aaron Rodgers. I told all of them, dude, have you guys not watched your poverty franchise operate for the last 15, 20 years? There's zero chance in hell you guys are going to land Aaron Rodgers. And now the reports are that he's probably not going to New York. So,
Dude, the Saints 50-1. I think I would be more likely to put bets for Super Bowls and conferences in the NFC because it's a lot weaker, dude. And I think the two teams that stood out to me the most was Denver in the AFC and the Saints in the NFC as two teams where I think, especially if they get Carr, it'll be very, very interesting and intriguing for me from a betting standpoint because I think immediately he's a top 5 guy in the conference. And it goes to show you just how weak the NFC is also. Like, we didn't even mention Jimmy G and what's happening in San Francisco at quarterback because we also don't know, right? Like, Brock Purdy's going to have surgery on his elbow and Trey Lance is coming back. They're obviously moving on from Jimmy G, but this is what you're doing. Kyler Murray, does he excite you? He's coming off the ACL now.
Forgot about Kyler.
Yeah.
Yeah, forgot about Kyler.
They have the worst odds, right?
He's got to be top 3 in the NFC. He gets so much hate, man. He's so talented, Kyler.
Yeah, but the story with him is the same that we've seen from day one. It just doesn't seem like he could play a full season. Dude, I remember his second year, I bet him to win MVP. And after the Hail Murray that they coined against the Bills, that week before they played the Patriots, he was the favorite with, forgot who else it was, but he was the favorite just for that week. And I was like, oh my God, I had a 35-1 on him. I was like, oh shit, here we go. Screenshots coming. Plays the Patriots, gets smoked. And then he was injured, didn't run the rest of the season. So that's the MO with Murray, man. I agree with you. From a talent standpoint, he would be in that 5. But they have the worst odds in the NFL to win the Super Bowl, them and the Texans. And between those two teams, they actually have a guy that they could get behind as a franchise quarterback in Arizona. But I just don't think that it's sustainable, his style of play, because we also haven't seen it, right? Like, we talk about Mahomes, bro, and how no matter what, you got to bet on them to go at least to the AFC title game because for 5 seasons as a starter, that's all we've seen. Whereas with Murray, it's the complete opposite. We just haven't seen him as a starter play 16 or 17 games since he made it to the league.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's crazy how many games he misses because if you watch him play, he's very good at not taking hits. He's, baseball player, great slides down before usually taking the big hits. So it's pretty weird that he is hurt so often. You think there's ever a chance that Kyler Murray says like, football ain't it for me and just goes back to baseball?
Nah, because he just signed for like, what, $180 million? I think he's
yeah, of course. Yeah, he's paid. But, I was just thinking like, when you're like a 2-sport athlete, I wonder if he ever thinks like, damn, I should have just played baseball.
No, because he got paid. And I know it's, I hate saying that, but like, bro, I remember, dude, when I used to do the show with the other guys, they were like, 2 of them were like hardcore baseball fans. Like, that was like their number 1 sport. And when Kyler Murray was going to make his decision on whether or not to play quarterback, go pro in one or the other, it's like, dude, the quarterback doesn't get hit as much as they used to. If he played corner or running back, I'd say go play baseball. Like, if he was my kid, I'd be like, bro, go play baseball. Like, you could just be average in baseball and you'll get like an $80 million contract at some point. But
right.
you're playing quarterback, bro. And you're coming out, you had just had that great season in college. You're gonna be the number 1 pick. Like, yeah, no kidding, he's gonna go play baseball. You want him to be in the back of a bus in like northern Idaho going to play AAA baseball when he could just go right away into the league and he's gonna be a starter and he'll be on prime time and he's a starting quarterback, which is probably the coolest and most iconic position we have in American sports is the quarterback. Like, it was a no-brainer for me. So for him, like, he achieved everything that I think he would want to achieve. Obviously, he wants to win, but the decision for him to play baseball, I think, is never going to be questioned. Like, he made the right choice. And I get what you're saying, but in the end of the day, the bottom line talks.
If you could be like a star level player in any sport, what do you think? What sport would you choose? Like, what would be like the coolest sport to be like at the top of the game?
In America, I would say a starting quarterback.
Okay.
In the world, it's a soccer player, like an elite
Yeah.
soccer player on a big, like, if you're the center forward for Real Madrid or Manchester
Yeah.
United,
It's got to be so cool, right?
bro,
Walking out
like
on that field.
that's also
Yeah.
like international fame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's like you can't go anywhere. Like even people in America know who you are. Whereas if you're the starting quarterback, like Brady was probably the most iconic NFL player we've ever had, but he also dated Giselle. Like all my family in Greece, bro, they knew Brady as Giselle's husband. They just knew he played the American football. That's all they knew. And it was like the number one sport, and he was the guy that was always winning. But it's like, bro, Ronaldo and Messi, Mbappe, they come and walk through like Vegas. People are gonna be like, holy shit. But if these football players go overseas, I think the levels of fame are completely different.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I've always said that if I could be like a star player for like a World Cup game or something, I just feel like walking out onto that field has to be probably one of the craziest feelings ever. Just like the way that those crowds go nuts is, it's got to give you like goosebumps as a player.
And also the nationalism behind it too. And it's so patriotic when you're hearing your anthem play and you're representing your country, as opposed to I'm playing for the Chargers. That's cool, but in 4 years I might not be on the Chargers again. But you're always going to be Portuguese or Brazilian.
Yeah,
So like that sense of pride is just wild. To me, I think those are the two answers. I know I gave two answers,
yeah,
but
I agree with you. The one thing I've always wondered, and this is a little off topic, but maybe you can give me some insight. Is I've always wondered, how do those soccer players, man, their hair is like fucking perfect. Even it looks the same as before the game even started. These guys are running miles, sweating, putting in work out there, and they look like they just jumped out the shower after the game.
I think it's a lot of gel. And I also think
Yeah,
that
it's
they
got to be
probably
right.
they got to add some stuff at halftime too. Like they go in there for
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes, they're probably like, yo, I got to fix this up. Just throw some more gel. And then you're right. It looks perfect, bro. It really does.
Yeah, because like I went to play basketball the other day, like, and mind you, I'm like 32 now. I haven't played basketball in years, pretty out of shape. Dude, I played for like 30 minutes. I look like a wet dog. My hair is all over the place. I'm like, geez, bro, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, man. Listen, you got to have millions of dollars to have people cater to you in the locker room and to take care of your hair. That's all. And then you'll look spotless like Cristiano Ronaldo does every time he plays a soccer game.
Yeah, it's impressive, man.
Hey, I want to wrap up with this. Um, if you, is there anything on the horizon? I know we talked about the tournament a little bit in the beginning, but from a betting standpoint that you're excited for? Like for me, we just had the NBA All-Star Game, and I was telling people last week how it's the most sure thing I think in sports betting, which is probably the one thing that doesn't have a lot of sure things, and it was the over. And again, they crushed the over. And people are bitching and moaning that, oh, it's a glorified layup line. You heard Jaylen Brown say it, and the product is so bad. It's like, dude, it's an all-star game. It's supposed to be fun and entertaining. And I found it incredible because, I hammered the 323 and a half. But is there anything that you feel as if people should be betting on or keeping their eye on over the next couple of weeks or months?
Well, one, college basketball. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you can come talk to me. We'll make money together. But baseball, I said it at the top of the show. Baseball is my number one sport to handicap. It's the sport that's gotten me banned from William Hill and other sports books around the world. There's a lot of money to be made during baseball, especially if you're good at finding underdogs and finding good value spots for the dogs, right? I always give this example for someone who is not familiar with betting baseball. In 2017, the year that the Red Sox won the World Series, right? They were on pace at one point to win, I think it was like 114 games or something like that, which would have set the MLB regular season record. They fell like a couple games short, but they were pretty close to setting the record for most wins in a regular season. Had you bet $100 on them every single game that year, you would have lost money at the end of the year. So that just goes to show you that the favorites and the juice, and especially in baseball, are never worth it. So I've talked about it on other episodes with you how, if you're someone who you're going to be betting consistently, you better get very comfortable taking the underdog and betting, with the points, not taking these big favorites. So yeah, I'm excited for baseball. A lot of money to be made there. But you like the All-Star game?
Yeah, bro. I've been betting the over. Dude,
Nah.
I've been telling people, my buddy Dominic, I know him since I was in the 6th grade. Since the 6th grade, bro, I've been betting the over in the All-Star game. No bullshit. And I think all but like,
Sixth grade.
bro,
Are you going to the corner store?
on everything, man. Listen, you know how we used to get down, bro. We used to get
Yeah.
down. You know what I'm saying? But dude,
Yeah.
I bet the All-Star game over since then. And I specifically remember 2 out of the 20 years that I've been doing it, it hasn't gone over. And one of the times was when they first made that pivot and they really changed it. Like there was one year where they scored like 400 points. And it was alley-oops. It was like 2014, 15-ish. And it was like 198 to 196. It was something crazy like that. And then the next year they went hard and, they upped like the bonuses or something. They changed a little bit and then it went under. But for the most part, bro, I've been betting the over. I'll blindly bet the over in the All-Star game, even with this new Elam rule where they don't really play a fourth quarter. They kind of play the first 3 quarters, and then the last one, it's like they play to a target score. They scored 359 points, and they shattered it by like 30. Next year, the All-Star game, they'll probably set it at like 341, 342 because
Are they even going to have an All-Star game next year? This was the worst All-Star game ever. It had worse ratings than the NFL Pro Bowl, where they're playing flag football. It was so for 3 consecutive years, the NBA All-Star Game ratings have declined. 2 years they were the exact same. 3.1 was their rating in 2021 and 2022. That was the previous worst. This year set the worst at a 2.2 rating. So for now 3 consecutive years, they've had the worst historical rating in NBA history for the All-Star Game. I think you got to change it, man. I would much rather see, like, if you're not going to have these guys go out there and compete like a real basketball game, because Nick, let's be honest here. I get it. I get this annoys me, this All-Star game. I love basketball. I played basketball my whole life. So when you see the product that they're putting out there, like, dude, if you sent 5 NBA players, 10 NBA players, 5-on-5 game to Rucker Park or any random park in America, you televised it, you could probably have so many people watching it. That should be such an easy sell for the NBA to get great ratings on that All-Star game if those players just went out there and actually played like a real game. Because who doesn't want to see LeBron James going at KD or Tatum going against Jaylen Brown? Like, if you're a basketball fan, that's what you want to watch. But the shit that they're doing now, man, is pretty whack. Like Dame pulling up for half court shots, 3 straight possessions. Like, Dame, I know you can shoot from anywhere on the court. I don't care to see you make an unguarded half court shot, right? Like, does anyone want to watch that?
I mean, you do if you bet the over. You want those shots to go in.
Yeah. If you bet the over, it's great. But I think next year will probably be a good under bet. There's been a lot of hype around, right? Like how the effort is not there. Maybe next year they come out and they play.
Well, a lot of people have wanted them to do what they did with the MLB All-Star game, which is the winning, go back to East versus West as opposed to having the captain's thing. And then you give home court advantage to whatever side wins. That would be something that I would probably take the under on, because especially like come fourth quarter where, you're a guy like, say you're Giannis or you're Tatum. Like Tatum went absolutely bananas in the All-Star game.
But he didn't, dude. He
yeah, they
for
weren't
example, that
guarding him.
record.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
So now he's got the All-Star game record of 55 or whatever he dropped in a game where they weren't even guarding him. Like, that's a slap in the face to all the greats before him who went out there and actually played like a real game and performed in against the best of the best competition. But now in the history books, Jason Tatum is the record holder for most points scored in one of the worst games I've ever watched. That was the worst game I've ever seen, ever. I had Donovan Mitchell for MVP, so I actually watched it because I was like, oh, maybe he'll win it. But yeah, it was pretty bad to watch.
Yeah, I put SGA 30-1 to win MVP, and I think he had like 30 seconds played in the game, so it kind of replicated the odds that he had there. Look, I think they are going to make changes on a serious note because a lot of people were complaining about it, but I hope they don't, because listen, man, it's always something that I think the history books, I've been on the right side of the over. I think it's like 18-3 in the last like 21 years has been the over. And you're right. Anytime there's a lot of public outrage and social media outrage, like, oh, this is not a game. And you saw some of the players say it too. I think they'll come down with changes, but it's going to be fun. We'll have a whole year to think about what could be come All-Star break next year.
Yeah, it's we'll definitely have a show before leading up for you to remind everyone to slam the over in the worst basketball game ever played.
Got to do it. You got to do it, man. Hey, Kenny, where can people find you, bro, if they want to contact you?
Kenny Bets Big, Instagram, Twitter, my website, kennybetsbig.com. But yeah, shoot me a DM. You know, football's over, college basketball's here, baseball right around the corner. So if you're looking to make money, get with me.
Bro, you got to come out here, man. We got to record some stuff in the studio. We got to figure it
Yeah,
out.
definitely, for sure. I maybe not for March Madness, because like I don't like being like, you know, for the Super Bowl. Like I feel like everyone's in Vegas for the Super Bowl. You know, like I don't want. I'd rather go there when it's more of like a low key thing and not fucking everyone in America is at Vegas. But no, I definitely want to come out there in the next few weeks for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk, man. You gotta start just like me, man. I'm in the gym now, getting right. I'm on this diet. Pool season,
Bro. Hey, hold on, son.
Talk to me.
Son. Yes. Yo, so for anyone, I've flipped 2 cars and I hit a tree. So I've almost died 3 times.
Jesus
so I'm
Christ.
Time right now. Yeah.
So that means
Look,
you definitely got to come to Vegas then, what you're saying.
Yeah. This was me before before I got into really bad car accidents. You want to see? You're going to be blown away.
Got to get right.
I'm like the guy that's like showing you my like high school pictures, but hold on.
While he's pulling it up, at Nick Day is 10 is where you can find me. Veteransminimum.com is you can find all things VM. And go to patreon.com. It's free for everybody. Just go check it out. I put the new logo up. It's not official yet, but it's like 80-20 yes. So I want to get your feedback. Write on the comments. Let us know what you guys think. Kenny, you're good? You got your thing over there?
Did you see this, bro?
No way. That wasn't you, bro.
Yes, it was, bro. I swear to God.
Was it really? You were shredded like that?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Working out used to be everything for me. And then unfortunately, like I said, I got into some bad car accidents. But yeah, bro, I was out lifting NFL players. I was putting up 405. I was 195 there, bench of 405. I put up 225 for 33 reps, better than almost every single play at the combine that year. So
look at you go.
Yeah, we could get back. I get busy in the gym, baby.
You got it. Pool season, bro. Pool season out here. And there's a lot of nice things that walk around during pool season, Kenny. I'll just leave it at that.